Hey everybody, this is the Sliders Review, and it's Women's History Month, and I'm here today to talk to you about Lizzie McGuire, the series rundown review part 3. Yeah, it seems that these videos ran a little too long than I thought they would. I didn't think I would be talking for 3 hours long, so yeah, this is the last video, I promise. So in this video, I will be doing the rest of the character rundowns, and I will be talking about the failed spin-offs and the failed revival. Miranda, played by Lelaine, which she only went by like her first name, which is kind of cool because she has a cool first name. I forget her last name. It starts with a P. I don't think it's Perez, I don't think, but I can't really remember. Anyway, so Miranda is that of Lizzie's best friend, and she's Mexican. And Miranda is very similar to Lizzie. They like the same boys, the same music. Their fashion sense was kind of similar in season 1, but they tried to set them apart fashion-wise in season 2 by having her a bit more edge, a bit more like, I guess, like, not so much goth, but kind of like hipster goth or something like that. And a lot of Euro stuff, like she always wearing like, you know, the British flag and stuff like that. And she even had that cool crossword puzzle like shirt that was just like so cool. But her clothing style always has a bit more of an edge to it because her character has a bit more of an edge to it. Like Lizzie, she was once best friends with Kate, and she gets picked on by Kate. But she is one of those people who actually stand up to Kate and will not let Kate bully her. Sometimes she will and everything, but it's mostly because like the time she stood up to her is when they wore the same outfit. And Kate did not like that whatsoever. And so Miranda was not going to back down, you know. And Miranda will be one of those type of people who will sass you a whole lot more than Lizzie will, because she always had that fire to her. And that's one of the things I always liked about her character. But Miranda is also shown to be more the jealous type. Like, you know, when a guy that she likes and she starts dating him, and like she can't talk to him, like she's so nervous. And I do like how they show that, because some people do get very nervous around somebody they like, even if they're dating them. So they do the whole thing with Lizzie. It's like feeding her lines and like a microphone and everything and an earpiece. And so like, you know, so that Miranda can, like, you know, say something to her actual boyfriend. But he finds this out and he assumes Lizzie likes him, so he hits on Lizzie. Miranda sees this and thinks Lizzie likes her boyfriend, and she just gets completely pissed off and won't talk to Lizzie. She tends to do this a lot, where she gets overly emotional and she'll just like cut off her friendship with like Lizzie and stuff like that, only to realize she's like being an idiot and like, you know, it's all in her head. And so like there was this one time where Miranda like was in a play, but her acting wasn't very good. And Lizzie and Gordo had kind of like a hard time trying to tell her. And then when they finally did, she thought, oh, you're just jealous and you're just being mean and all this other stuff. And so she basically just like stops like talking to them and stuff. One thing I do hate that they do with Miranda a lot is that she gets more of the heavier, like self-loathing type episodes, or the episodes that make her look like a bad person. And I hate that because, you know, the character is Latino and there's a stereotype amongst Latinos and everything, you know what I'm saying? And so there's one episode where they're at the mall and Miranda gets accused of stealing. So Miranda's all like, you know, I didn't do it and blah, blah, blah. And how dare you like point the finger at me? And Lizzie is literally standing up for her friend. But it turns out Miranda really did steal from the mall. And I'm all like, oh, you gotta be kidding me. Like, you got to be kidding me. That is a huge stereotype amongst like Hispanics and blacks and everything. And I hate that. And I hate that they did it. I know they had to do it to one character, but why her, you know? And the fact that she actually really did steal it. Why couldn't it just been a mistake and just ended up in her bag and she be all like, hey, it just got knocked over, but I didn't actually do it. Like I stole it, but not on purpose and everything. So I really do hate how they did that. Now, because she is Latino, they did kind of make her into a only slight stereotype where she has a bit more, like I said, she has an edge to her. And the edge is more like a feisty edge with a bit more attitude and everything. Like, you know, like it's kind of like the equivalent of how they all make like a black person, the angry black person or a ghetto one, you know. And that does tend to be a stereotype that Hollywood does on people of color and the Hispanic people. So I do hate that they did that, but it did give her a different characteristic trait other than that of Lizzie. And so, like, there's another really good episode with Miranda that has to do with her culture. Okay, my lips are sticking together. Culture and everything. Oh, like, you know, her Mexican heritage, where Kate is making fun of what they do and for like Halloween, Day of the Dead. And I've already talked about this episode, so I'm not going to go into too much detail about it. But I do like the fact that like they're willing to show other cultures and their like belief systems and stuff like that. Because after a while, Disney stopped doing that, but they only started doing it again when that become like the it thing in Hollywood, you know. But the fact that they were willing to do that back in the day was like really cool. And so like I think there was I already talked about that episode with Lizzie, so never mind. But there's also a very, very important episode, and that is the anorexia episode, which Disney Channel didn't want to say that name. They just said, I think they said like eating disorder, maybe. I can't really remember the words they used. They just said she's not eating. But anyway, Miranda is eating chips one day, and Gordo's all like, you sure are like eating way too much and stuff like that. So she sees a picture of herself, and for whatever reason, as skinny as she is, and this girl is skinny, she's all like, I have 6 chins and a big gut and all this other stuff. And it's all like, what is she looking at? Because I don't see it. It's all in her head. A lot of people really do look at themselves differently when they look at pictures or like a mirror and they see something that is not there. Girls tend to do this a bit more than guys, or at least they talk about it a whole lot more, or at least the media make a point to let people know about it. And that is just that they see themselves as being overweight when they're actually not. And it's a really bad like illness in a person's head when they think that, because then they want to start dieting. And when they start to diet, when they're already skinny, it's like, what are you doing and everything? Like, you know, you can really do some self-harm to your body. But she takes it to the extreme by just flat out not eating, period. And you can see her tired and dazed and, you know, completely out of it. And her friends are starting to realize something, but not quite sure what's going on. And of course, she's denying it until she's at Lizzie's place and she completely passes out. And this is when, you know, because they found out that she wasn't eating because, you know, she finally confessed to like, you know, Gordo and Lizzie, but they didn't tell an adult. So when she passed out, at some point in time, they finally did tell Lizzie's mom. And so like Lizzie's mom had to like, you know, contact, you know, Miranda's mom and all this other stuff. And so when they were talking and stuff like that, Miranda reveals why she eats the way she does. I don't know if it really sticks because, okay, here's the thing. She says she has no control over her life. She's a teenager. Her parents rule everything. And like eating is the only thing she has control over. You know, her body's changing. She can't even control that. But eating as much food is something she could say, hey, I can eat as much food as I want and nobody can stop me, blah, blah, stuff like that. It doesn't really make that much sense because, okay, one, your parents still control what you eat when you're younger because they cook the food and tell you to eat it. Two, it would have been better if we would have seen the things she's complaining about. Because she even says she's doing terrible in school, making bad grades, and like, not having time to study. And she has so much homework piling up on her. It's things she can't control, but eating is. We don't see this in the show. We don't see her making all these bad grades throughout like the show. We don't see all this homework piling up on her where it's too stressful. We don't see her parents controlling her life. So it falls a little flat because we have to hear about it and not see it. Also, it's just, I don't know how eating is the only thing she can control. I guess that's something some people say, but it's a good attempt. They just needed to hammer it out better, in my opinion. And so her friends are like trying to tell her, you shouldn't be doing this to yourself, you're harming yourself, and all this other stuff. It's one of those things that they should have used the term anorexic, but they didn't. And I get they needed a Miranda episode, but I wish they didn't give it to her character. I wish they would have gave it to somebody else, like say Lizzie, because it's her show and it could have been something she's dealing with. And then we would have saw the parents like trying to control. We see the parents control her life, and so we could have seen Matt like make fun of her. So that could have been a whole lot better if it was her, or maybe Kate, because Kate is the popular girl, and popular girls care about their appearance. So it's like that could have been Lizzie in the game trying to help her out and everything. Or Gordo. You never see these like body image like episodes dealing with guys. It's always females. And so it would have been nice to flip the script and do it on like a dude. Plus Gordo kept eating a lot in season 2. But this episode also gave us that cool dance number that was choreographed by a 16-year-old. And it's when Gordo wanted to make like a dancing music video for some bizarre reason. And I love this dance, boy. It's so great watching them like just like dancing with like the teacher and Lizzie doing flips and everything. Because Hillary actually went through I can't talk. Gymnastics. I'll just say that. Rhythm gymnastics. I got it out. And so so she can actually do flips and cartwheels and stuff like that. Don't know if she still can today and everything, but that was something they highlighted on the show back in the day. And it had the coolest song, Play Us Against the World. And that was a better song choice because it had to deal with them, literally them against the world and everything. They're becoming older and things are changing and stuff like that. Now they replaced it with a techno song because they lost the rights to that song. Ugh. Now, towards the end of season 2, people started to notice something. Miranda completely disappeared from the show. 1 or 2 episodes is kind of like, okay, whatever, and they are making an excuse. But about 5 or 7 episodes she is missing from. And it's just kind of like, well, hold up, what the heck is exactly going on here? And these excuses are starting to sound more lame than the other. Where is Lelaine at? Like, did she quit the show? Did she get fired from the show? Like, what's going on? And those episodes she's not in are still good episodes, but they're missing that spark, that spunk that Miranda had. And the reason for that, from what I've read, is because Lelaine wanted to pursue a career in music. And she was also doing the Disney Channel original movie, You Wish. And I'm like, oh man, couldn't they like postpone like filming until like those episodes were over? And so like it does feel odd that she's not there, especially when the series finale is completely out of order and then there's 11 episodes where she actually are in. And it's just kind of like, what the heck is going on? Now, sadly, Lelaine has stopped acting. She does some acting here and there, but not as much as like she used to. I remember when I saw her pop up in Easy A, and she acted just like Miranda, and I was so happy for that cameo. I think she might still be pursuing music, but I'm not 100% sure. Matt, He is played by Jake Thomas. And when it comes to Jake, his dad actually wrote a couple of episodes for Lizzie McGuire, and his mom guest starred as like I think an art teacher in the later seasons of the later episodes of season 2. And Matt is Lizzie's much younger brother who has a head full of spiky hair. And he is mostly the B plot of like the show, where we get to see things that he does. And he's her annoying like brother who's always getting on her nerves. He cannot stand his sister. One thing they did, I'm so glad, is that they did not do the whole, oh, well, me and you used to hang out a lot when you was younger, but now you don't have time for me now that you got older. I'm so glad they didn't do that. I hate when they do that with younger kid characters. But this dude is just like a brat. He's always trying to get into trouble, whether it's at home or it's at school. And his friends help him get in trouble because they're just as bad as he is. Though he was like very bratty and annoying, he was like cool in his own right, you know what I'm saying? Like this dude will always be doing something and always like impress people. Like when he made a juice bar in his own backyard because he concocted his own juice formula. That time he was really good at art and would have been the next Picasso and everything. That time he thought like he was psychic and could read people's minds. Or that time he tricked people into thinking he is a genius. And so in the first season, he's mostly relegated to just doing his own little thing and hanging out with his parents. And there was one time where his dad followed him and realized that Matt made a man cave, a literal cave in the ground, dug up a giant hole and made a cave out of it because he said he just wanted his own place. And to where his dad's all like, you know what? You're right. So he just started hanging out with his son in like the little man cave until the mom made them get out. And I think it might have caved in or something like that. But he's always up to like no good or always doing like, because like, he's pulling pranks. He's just being like, trying to think. I'm kind of like drawing a blank of all the, like he did a lot of bad stuff in the show. So I'm kind of like drawing a blank. But like, I can't think of some of the bad stuff he did. But I do remember one episode where his dad football, he wasn't supposed to play with it because it got signed by somebody famous, Walter Payton, I think that's the name. And the football ended up like he started playing with it, but then it got smashed, and then he had to go to like a pawn shop and try to get like a replacement and all this other stuff. Then there was a time him and his friend got like trapped downtown, and so they just skipped school and just started having a blast downtown. Now, there was one episode I remember when he was in school, and like all of a sudden, 'cause you find out he does get bullied himself at school. And he bullies other kids. Like when he always like, I think he burps in this one dude's face like every morning. So this one guy blackmailed him. No, not blackmailed him, but like set him up to where he took a fall for something. And like, then there was another episode where this one guy wanted to be a better prankster than him. And he just couldn't stand it to where he had to regain his title back. Now, like I said before, in the first season, like, it was mostly just him hanging out with his parents. But then somewhere towards the end of the first season, they finally started giving him friends. There were 2 friends that appeared in 2 episodes that later just disappeared. One was a Hispanic boy and one was a black boy. And they just appeared in 2 episodes, but then disappeared after that. But halfway into like the first like season, they gave him the friend named Lanny, and Lanny was a really peculiar boy who like was mute. He could speak, but he never once spoke on this show. But he has some form of select mutism and everything. And so this character was like hilarious. He was only in 24 of the episodes, but every time he was there, him and Matt will always get into some kind of like trouble. And the interesting thing about him is that since he doesn't speak, Matt will just look at him and be like, "Oh, you're right, Lanny." Like, and then he'll be like, almost like he could read his mind or something like that. And the recurring gag is that the dude just doesn't speak, but he's a good mime type person. And so it's weird. Like he doesn't speak, but his facial expressions and the things he do like with his hands are just like hilarious on the show. And he's one of the funniest characters who just never speaks and everything. And there was an episode, a weird supernatural episode where Matt and like Lizzie switch bodies and everything. And all of a sudden, Lizzie could understand what Lanny is saying just by looking at him, and his lips doesn't move. So it's almost like a form of Matt has telekinesis when it comes to Lanny or whatever. It's weird, it's never explained, and it's just an odd thing that they do in like the show. And so Lanny, I think he's played by what's that dude's name? Christian Copeland. And so like I think maybe I've heard this dude speak once in like a commercial. Maybe, I'm not sure. Because I don't think he's a mute in real life. I think he actually does have like a voice, but I don't think too many people have ever heard it unless they saw like the other projects he's done. He doesn't act no more. And I think there's like a YouTube video where he actually speaks, but I'm not sure. But in the commentary on the DVD, I think it was Lelaine said that because many years had passed and she's like, oh my God, I saw like, Christian and everything. And like he was so much taller and his voice got deeper and like all this other stuff. And so, yeah, he can speak. It's just nobody knows what the dude sounded like when he was a kid. Melina was his other best friend, female, played by Carly Stroder. And so, like, Melina was just a bad girl. I mean, she was bad and she was tough. Like, it's kind of interesting, the parallels, because, you have Lizzie and her best friend is like one female and one guy, and you have Matt and his best friends are like one male and one female. So I do like that. And so she showed up, I think, somewhere towards the end of season 1, where we hear about her, but we never see her and everything. Because it's about some girl I think he was dating, and she now has like the hots for like another boy at school who's even badder than like Matt. And then when we finally, because Matt ended up having a crush on like Miranda, and so all of a sudden this little adorably cute girl with like a bob and like bright blonde hair and like bright blue eyes shows up and just starts like ripping Miranda like in half verbally. It's like, what the world? And so that is Melina for you. She's bossy, she's rude. She likes to get Matt in trouble. Her and Matt and Lanny are always getting in trouble and stuff. But she just loves bossing like Matt around and just being rude and talking down to him and stuff. She's meaner to him sometimes than Lizzie is. At least Lizzie would call him like a weasel or something like that. But Melina is just like flat out mean. Now she was only in 12 episodes, sadly. But the most episodes she's in is in season 2. And she just tends to hang out with Lanny and that of Matt until Lanny got written off the show towards the end. And so she had to replace like, the main best friend. And so she helps him and sometimes helps out like Lizzie's family whenever they're like doing stuff. Now the actress herself, she continued to act for a while, but then she found her true calling and she enlisted in the military. But when it came to Matt, I remember that one time he pretended like to be sick and he put like the thermometer in like boiling hot water, but then put it in his mouth like afterwards and stuff like that. And he was just mischievous and everything, always getting in trouble. Now, Jake continues to act till this day. And him and the actress who plays Claire, Davida, I think that's her name. They actually had a podcast together where they would talk about like the Lizzie McGuire episodes. And they only did about 12 episodes or so, but then they stopped last year for some reason on his YouTube channel. Now he still makes stuff on his YouTube channel, but him and her no longer do a blog for some reason. Not a blog, but yeah, a podcast. I guess they used to call it blog back then, but now people just call it podcasting and stuff. Not sure why they stopped. But his YouTube channel is still up. Kate, played by Ashley Brillat. And so Kate is the bad girl of the show. She's like the bully and everything. And very fashionable too. She's the queen bee and one of the original Regina Georges and stuff. And Kate used to be friends with the trio until she went to summer camp and became popular. After that, she just completely abandoned them and became like, you know, the most trend-setting type person at the school, bossing people around and just being completely ice cold to them. And she is mean and she is cruel and everything. And so like, not cool, C-O-O-L, but you know, cruel and everything. So like, whatchamacallit. So she's just literally is just like the bully to that of like the trio. And Lizzie is very intimidated by Kate. Until sometimes she isn't. Mostly in season 1, she is, even her and the trio. But by season 2, they start to stand up to her a bit more. And even to the point, like I said before, whenever Kate is in trouble, they will come to like her rescue, especially Lizzie. Showing that, you know, even though they don't like her, they will be willing to help them out because only Lizzie wants to. One of those episodes is when... See, the rule of being a cheerleader is that if you're injured, you can't be a cheerleader no more. So she ends up hurting her arm and she gets kicked out of cheerleading squad by that of her best friend, Claire. And because of that, she has to like, you know, sit outside on the grass and eat her lunch. Something she used to make like the trio do every once in a while when she needed their table. So Lizzie, feeling terrible about this, decides to go over and befriend her and everything. And teach her how to do one-handed, like, you know, cartwheels and stuff. The rest of Lizzie's group did not want this to happen because they cannot stand Kate. But they realize the sooner Kate's back in cheerleading, the less that she'll have to spend with them and everything. And so it works. And of course, Kate is still rude to them afterwards. But you still see, the one thing about her is that even though she's mean, there are glimpses of humanity in her. And she will do a nice thing. Like when the trio got paired with other like members of the class because they was like mad at each other. She got paired with Gordo of all people. And so like... what happened was she bossed him around and had him carry all her shopping bags, but she actually gave him some advice on like forgiving his best friends because it's just, I don't know, she just wanted to be nice for some bizarre reason and stuff. And so like one of the reasons for that is probably because Ashley in real life is really, really nice. And she said that people really think that she was like mean back in the day. Because she'll go somewhere and little kids will see her and walk up to her and be like, "You're mean on that TV show." Or they'll get scared and hide behind their parent. And of course, every villain of the show doesn't like when that happens. So every once in a while, there's a compassionate episode that makes them sweet and nice. And this completely changed when it came to that of the movie because her character at first started off a little bratty, but then afterwards, she was just sweet as sugar and everything. Now, the actress, I think she gave up acting, and I think I read she went to law school or something like that. Now, Claire, played by Davida Williams, was Kate's best friend. She was only in 12 episodes, and whenever she's in an episode, she's not in it for very long. The most she's ever had to do in the show was the one where she was running for student body president, and but the biggest, like, vocal episode she ever had was like in the episode where she kicked Kate out of like cheerleading and stuff, and she became the new like queen bee and stuff. I wish they could have had more episodes with her and actually showed a little bit more of her humanity and a little bit more than her just following Kate around and just being rude to the other characters, because Kate's rude to the other characters. Now, Davida, I think that's how you say her name. I can't pronounce her name that well. She did, like I said before, the podcast with that up Jake, but now they have stopped. She still continues to work and acting in this day. Joe and Sam McGuire. And I do like how they both have like gender neutral names. You don't really know who's who, but Joe's like the mom, played by Holly Todd, and the dad is played by Robert Carradine. And so they're Lizzie's very kind-hearted, sweet parents, and some of the best Disney Channel parents ever. They're very soft-spoken, they're very compassionate, but they're also very stern and will ground their kids, and they will raise their voice at their kids, and which I love and stuff, but it doesn't always sound angry because they're so soft-spoken and stuff. And the thing is that they're miles away from that of Lizzie and Matt. So it makes you wonder, how are these their parents when they're so kind and sweet? But Lizzie is kind and sweet, but their parents are just like sweet as like sugar, you know what I'm saying? Now, the mom, I remember her when she played Data's daughter in that Star Trek Next Generation episode. Now, the dad is related to the dude David Carradine, and he was also in Revenge of the Nerds. And so, like, the thing about the mom, I think she's like a house mom. And so there's one episode where Lizzie is like reading a book about this one girl who just, befriends her mother. And that just makes Lizzie want to befriend her mother and just hang out with her mother constantly, and even get her friends to hang out with their parents and stuff. And the thing about Joe is that, like, she sees her daughters growing up and she's no longer the little girl she used to have. So every time Lizzie will come with her with advice, it's like, oh my God, my child wants to like interact with me and everything and hang out with me. And like, because she misses those days, And even when Gordo was making that music video, Miranda and dance video, but Miranda and like Lizzie, she wanted to join in and dance with them and stuff like that. The dad is more comedic and everything and less serious than that of the mom. I remember there was one episode where like him and his wife went on a date and Lizzie was babysitting Matt, but then when they called in, they realized something weird was going on. So he goes there and they did like this whole Home Alone type thing. He also helped Matt, like, because he found his old like soapbox like racer and everything, so he helped fix it up so Matt could ride it, but then he ended up riding it by mistake and went just flying down the road in the most hilarious scene ever. He also helped his son like try to be Jet Li's sidekick in like a movie during that Brawl episode where his brother guest starred and everything. And he's one of those type of people. I think he's a businessman because he's always wearing business shirts and ties. Because he literally tells his son, you can make a video to be Jet Li's sidekick, but nothing beats a handwritten letter and an essay and everything. So he's one of those like types of like, businessy type like fathers and stuff like that. Both of the parents still work till this day. And like the Robert actually showed a check he got from Disney Channel for residuals, and it was a blank zero check with like $0. And this was during the SAG strike, and he literally said, hey, look, this is why we strike and everything. Ethan Kraft, played by Clayton Snyder. So Ethan was first introduced as kind of like, this cool guy in the first, like, well, their version of the pilot in the Picture Day episode, that's not the pilot, where he's trying to get Gordo to, like, have like a cool, tough guy look when taking his picture and stuff. He's kind of presented as kind of like the cool, dumb kid, but a slight jock in the form of like a bully. But then by season 2, they decided to rewrite his character completely and make him into a literal airhead, even to the point where there's like a sound effect of air going through his like ears and I don't know why exactly they decided to change this up, but they literally made him dumber than rocks in season 2. But he is the guy that all the girls want. Lizzie, Miranda, and Kate all fan over him, as the rest of the school. Now, in season 1, he was a bit tall, but by season 2, he was just like giant and everything. Like, he was just like really, 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 really tall. He's mostly paired with that of like, just like, well, he mostly just by himself until like, the trio comes over and talk to him, or sometimes he's paired with like Kate, because they're the two popular kids at school. And like, he just loves Gordon like a lot, like Gordo and stuff, because he just thinks Gordo's like the coolest, smartest person in the world, even though Gordo does not like him and stuff and makes fun of him behind his back. And so he doesn't even have that big of a role in like the movie either. But like, I believe, yeah, like I said before, it's weird because when Lizzie asked him out, he just completely rejected her and didn't really give no real reason as to why. And one of the interesting things is that when they had that one like clue type party at Lizzie's place, his stepmom is just as dumb as him, and he's annoyed by that. But it's like funny because he's dumb himself. Now, the actor, I think he still acts. He mostly does like short films and stuff. Larry Tudgman, the third. He's played by, I believe, Cal Burns, I believe his name is. He is the resident geek of the show. Like, he's super nerdy, super geeky. He always wears the same shirt in every episode. And I think they said in season 1, I don't know if they was joking, but they said it was never washed. But I don't know if they were probably just joking or not. But he is so dorky and gross, and like, he will eat worms, he will pick his nose, eat his boogers, and so he's like your typical like nerdy, geeky type of guy. And he's one of the smartest kids at school, where his rival is that of Gordo and stuff. And he thinks he's like a really cool person, even though he isn't. And so, like, he ended up crushing on Lizzie in that one episode, but of course, she went on a date with him, but didn't actually like him. And he normally gets picked on by that of Kate. Now, even though his shirt never changes, in every episode he's in, his hair changes in a different way, either by the length or like the hair color. And so like the only time he ever changes up his clothes is when he's at home in his night outfit or PE, or when he's on that date with like Lizzie. One episode that was really sad is that when Miranda had like a party, she invited everybody in the class except for him. And that really, really, really hurted his feelings and stuff. Other than that, he's just mostly a nerd and everything. So in this episode, like I said before, where like Miranda had a party and she invited the whole school except for Tudgman. She assumed that Tudgman wouldn't want to go because he's into like sci-fi stuff, and plus she didn't want him there because he's so dorky and nerdy. Yet she invited Kate, who's her bully, only because she know Kate will bring in popular guys and girls and all this other stuff. When Tudgman finds this out, like, he's all like running up to Miranda. He's all like, you can give me your invite personally and everything. Lizzie lied and said, oh, she left it at home. But Miranda just straight up tells him, I don't want you at my party. This hurts his feelings so much that when he's trying to make an excuse to get out of there, he's nearly crying and everything, which is so sad, and it hurts Lizzie's feelings. She couldn't believe her friend would be that cold-hearted and stuff. So throughout the entire episode, Miranda's like stressing out about the party, but Lizzie decides that she's going to help Tudgman out by dressing him up in cool clothes and all this other stuff to trick Miranda not thinking he's at the party and to avoid her. Well, that doesn't last for long because like when she sees him, she was like, "Oh, who's this cute looking guy?" and all this other stuff. So she goes up to him and they dance, and it's one of those things where you feel like there's gonna be like a love connection, right? So he takes off his shades, revealing who he is, and she is furious to the point where she's fussing like Lizzie out, talking about, "Are you literally trying to embarrass me and show me up at my own party and doing this and blah blah blah?" And then you think she's really gonna lay into Lizzie, but then she's all like apologizes to Tudgman, talking about how she should have never done that to him, and she lost her humanity for like a while and all this other stuff, and then she wants to go dancing with him. You assume they're gonna have like a love connection, but they never do. Now, the first time I ever saw this actor, he was in Goosebumps in that old story episode. Like, I knew he looked familiar. Mr. Diggs, played by Arnie Lowe Jr., he is a substitute teacher who does a lot of substituting for like 12 episodes. He's very laid back and one of Lizzie's like favorite like substitute teachers and stuff. And he's always there to really like help push the limits of like their education and stuff. He's very compassionate. He gives great advice and he always strives for them to like learn more and be better. In the second season, Mr. Diggs kind of get like a solo episode to where it's like it turns out all he eats is fast food for like, breakfast, lunch, and dinner, right? And so Lizzie invites him over to her place for dinner, which, her friends thinks is the dumbest thing because you're not supposed to see your teacher outside of school. Anyways, so while he's over there and stuff, everything goes good, and him and Lizzie dad tend to like bond on like music to the point where her dad will show up at school and he constantly shows up at the house just hanging out with her dad. She doesn't really like that all that much, even though he is like, well, he's not technically her teacher, he's the substitute, but he's always there. So even though he's one of her favorites, like, she doesn't want him there all the time hanging with her dad because she just feels that's uncool, right? Well, the B side of the story is Matt is having problems with his teacher. It's even to the point where that teacher scares Melina of all people. Basically, she's just so uptight and she's pissed, and any little thing you do, she gets on to you and give you tons of homework or like, detention or whatever. So he realizes she might need a man in her life to make her stop being so grumpy. So he invites her over the same time Mr. Diggs is supposed to come over. Turns out like she's even getting on like Lizzie's mom nerves and stuff. And so, but it also turns out that like she knows Mr. Diggs, whose real name is Digby Sellers or something like that. And so like it turns out they was like really good friends back in the day, and like he's the reason why she got into teaching, even though he's just like a sub. And they look like they're around the same age, so like who knows. So after that they decide, hey, let's go on a date and like this and that. One thing I've noticed about this show is that they tend to make all the teachers black and everything. There's only been one other teacher that was a different, two of them. One was white, and that's only because it was played by Jake's mom, and the other one was Asian, and the Asian teacher showed up in season 1, and she was only there for like one episode, and that was like really the only Asian character who's ever been on this show and everything. I can't believe they never had any other Asian character, not even as like a side character or a background character and stuff. But I guess one reason why they decided to make all the teachers and stuff like black is because there isn't like a main black character on the show. Like there's only like recurring black characters as friends and stuff. Now, Haley Duff, the older sister of Hilary Duff, played that of Kate's cousin. And Kate's cousin is really rude and really mean, and like, well, just like Kate. But it's funny because in the first season, we see this one girl in like the crowd, and she's just smiling and clapping, but she has no lines. I don't think that's Kate's cousin because I don't think they even go to the same school and everything. But maybe they do, I can't remember. But like in season 2, they finally decided to give her like a role and some speaking parts and stuff. And she was actually the singing voice for Lizzie in the movie. Coach Kelly is played by Dottie. I forget what Dottie's last name is. And she's a coach who only appears in probably about 2 or 3 episodes. And so she helps Lizzie out when there's an episode towards the end of season 2 where Lizzie's just one of the guys. She's beating guys in arm wrestling, chin-ups, and like playing flag football and everything where she tackled a guy really hard. And she's loving it until somebody's all like, oh, you're a dude and you're a monster and everything. So she decides she's going to be more girly. Now that part right there don't make no sense because Lizzie is always girly and always dressed girly and all this other stuff. I still think they should have made Miranda the sportsy one that played with the guys and stuff because she seems more tough. Because every time like Lizzie would play with the guys in football, she always acted so dainty and girly and stuff. But Coach Kelly, help give her some advice talking about it's okay being like a girly guy or a guy girl type thing, like just because you're a girl don't mean you can't play sports and like stuff like that, and people should respect you for who you are and never try to change for anybody and stuff like that, because the coach, even though she power lifts and everything, she still goes like swing dancing and everything. And she has to make her own dresses because apparently the ones that in the store don't fit her arms or something like that. And, that's a really good lesson to teach people that, you can be who and whatever you want. You shouldn't be labeled just because you're a guy. Don't mean you have to be a macho guy. And just because you're a girl don't mean you have to be like a girly girl and everything, I remember back when I was in high school, there was a girl who was on the football team, the guys' football team. That did not last long. Basically, somebody did not want her there. Either her own team didn't want her there during practice, or the opposing team didn't want her there during the game, and they tackled the crap out of her. Hurt her so bad, she quit. Then when I was in middle school, there was this one boy who decided to be like a cheerleader and stuff. Now, what's interesting about Coach Kelly is that Dottie, so see, Coach Kelly, it's never explained if she dates guys or girls, but she goes swing dancing with a guy that they showed in the show. But Dottie herself is actually a lesbian. So she was probably the very first LGBT actress on a Disney Channel show that we know of. Now, Veruca, she is a character that most people overlook. And in fact, she's a character I completely forgot about, played by that of Rachel Snow. Veruca kind of just showed up out of nowhere towards the end of the second season. She's only in probably about 5 episodes. And in actuality, I assumed at first she was just a background character that they gave lines to. Because in that episode where Lizzie is trying to be give advice through an advice column and stuff like that, she had an appearance where this one girl's bullying her, and so Lizzie told her just to stand up to the girl. Well, she tried to but couldn't because the girl came with 2 other people. And so because of that, Veruca just ran and hid in a trash dumpster. And she blamed Lizzie for that. And I remember thinking to myself, oh, that's kind of odd and also nice. They gave a background character, like vocal lines and stuff like that. And then at the end, Lizzie and some other people helped her stand up to like the bullies. But then apparently she kept appearing in other episodes, only having like a few lines and stuff. And I never really thought much of it. But then Wikipedia says she's a recurring character. And she's not even friends with none of the main group. And she's not even like a Tudgeman where it's like she interacts with the main group a lot. She just kind of like showed up out of nowhere. But it was really cool that, they was willing to cast somebody that, had like some weight to them and everything. Which now kind of makes me wonder about the anorexia episode with Miranda and kind of like, she would have been pivotal in that episode to help teach Miranda about body positivity and stuff like that. Or maybe she had like a problem with it or something, and it was her going through like the diet and stuff like that. Last, there's Jeremy and David. Basically, they're just two guys that randomly show up, and they're friends with Sam. I'm not sure if they work with him or what. And like they just normally appear in episodes whenever he needs them to do something for him. And sometimes they have a chimpanzee and he'll call for them to like check in on the kids or just something random like that. They're just two random guys that just like appeared at the show that Sam actually has some like friends, but they never show that Joe has any friends. And they're actually named after themselves and stuff. So with the show coming to an end and being very popular, Disney wanted to capitalize in their high school years and give them a spinoff on ABC. But that came to a crashing end because of Hilary Duff's mother, who was her manager. Basically, they wanted more money. I think Hillary was paid $15,000 per episode on the show, and she would have been paid $30,000 on the ABC show. They felt like that was like per episode and everything. They felt like that wasn't enough, and so they just like walked away from it. 30,000 an episode sounds pretty good, especially when you're like like a teenager and stuff like that. And so, but I found out from like this one actress, the reason why child actors are paid so much now is because they have to pay for a lot of stuff. They have to pay for tutoring. They have to pay for an acting coach. They got to pay for headshots. They got to pay to have like an agent. They have to pay for like, living expenses and stuff like that. So that's one of the reasons why they still need like tons and tons of money and stuff like that. And then of course, spending money. So, but then after the movie, they wanted to make a second movie. But once again, the mother derailed that because they weren't going to pay Hillary enough money for like a sequel movie and everything. So they walked away from that. But then they wanted to make a spin-off of the Miranda character, but she would not be the focus. Instead, her little sister Stevie, who we've never heard of, would be the main focus. And the show will literally be on Disney Channel, and it will be exactly the same way as Lizzie McGuire, with an animated Stevie and this and that. And the show would have been called What's Stevie's Thinking, the original title of Lizzie McGuire, What's Lizzie Thinking? And it was going to be played by none other than Selena Gomez at that time. Now, Miranda would have been in the show as well, but I don't know exactly what role she would have played other than like the older sister, because at that point in time, she should have been in high school. And it would have been odd to see just Miranda and not the rest of like her friends, unless they would have moved into like a different city or something. And what's interesting is that the actress who played Selena Gomez's mother in Wizards of Waverly Place was also going to be in this show. But of course, if this show was to happen, but it didn't because they decided to make Hannah Montana instead, we would have never gotten Wizards of Waverly Place, which I love to death. But you know what? I still believe Disney Channel can make a "What is Stevie Thinking" like series and stuff, because like all they have to do is have Miranda now be the mother instead of the sister, and Stevie can be her daughter. Now, of course, Selena Gomez is way too old to play the role, but they can find another actress to do it, and they can just make it the Latino version of Lizzie McGuire and just put it on Disney Channel. That way, there won't have to be no mature content, and they can still cater to young people. I don't know why they like haven't thought about that since not going forward with the series. But in 2019, during the pandemic, a miracle happened. Disney Plus, the streaming site, was gonna make a Lizzie McGuire revival where everybody would have came back. This is something fans have wanted ever since the show got canceled. And it was happening. Like everybody was on board. They were doing table reads. I think they even filmed some stuff. But then something happened. The showrunner, the original showrunner of the Lizzie McGuire show, who was also the showrunner for this one, Terry Minsky, she either quit or she got fired halfway through. And what derailed this revival, from what I've read, is backstage drama. Apparently, Hilary Duff didn't want this show to be. Sorry about that, my camera died. Anyway, apparently Hilary Duff didn't want this show to be identical to the original, like all G-rated or PG rated and stuff like that. She wanted a more mature show because not only has the cast matured and everything, but the fans also has as well. And it makes sense because, everybody's older now and they want more mature theme type stuff, you know what I'm saying? But apparently she wanted very mature type stuff. How mature? Well, I probably can't say on this video and everything. But literally after coming from the show younger, where she played a more mature, risky type character, I guess she wanted a little bit into that as well, where they talk about more about adult subjects and stuff. But of course, being Disney, they was not having that. And you can even tell Disney wanted them to be exactly the same way they were back in the day, because look at how Gordo and Lizzie are dressed for shooting for the revival and everything. They are literally dressed exactly the same way they was dressed when they were in middle school and stuff. So it wouldn't have been that much progression and stuff. And that would have been irritating. So it got canceled. They did a table read during the pandemic for the fans to reunite with everybody. And it was so cool to see everybody and stuff. They reenacted that Bra episode. Of course, it's their most famous episode of all time and stuff. And so it does suck that 3 times, well actually 4, we was going to get more Lizzie McGuire type content, but something just got in the way and prevented it from happening. It still would have been great to have that revival, and I hope one day they reverse their decision and give it to us, because Nickelodeon literally heard that concept and be like, hey, we should revive one of our older, popular, more properties and give it a more adult, mature theme. And that, of course, was iCarly. Nickelodeon is always trying to rip off from Disney, boy, I swear to God. So yeah, there was a revival of iCarly that was more mature. We talk about more adult type stuff and cursed and stuff like that. But it didn't last that long, only for 2 seasons and stuff. But as you well know, Disney Channel has decided, okay, look, if it's not going to work for Lizzie McGuire, it needs to work for something else. So they revived That's So Raven and made Raven's Home, where Raven is an adult and has 2 kids. And now they're going to do the same thing with Wizards of Waverly Place, where Justin is all grown up, married, and has 2 kids. And the Wizards one hasn't came out yet, but if you ever watched Raven's Home, then it's once again that cookie cutter Disney Channel gooberish PG G-rated type stuff, you know what I'm saying? So if they were to ever do Lizzie McGuire again, most likely they will want to bring it to Disney Channel and have it exactly the way it was before. And I don't know, like I would want to see a more mature Lizzie, but I don't know. Like sometimes the fans just want what they want, and like I don't know, you know what I'm saying? Because if they were to bring it back, they're gonna make it just like Raven's Home, you know, and I would not want that at all. You know what I'm saying? Like, I would not want the same exact premise and the same exact tone. You know what I'm saying? That's why I'm not looking forward to the Wizards Beyond, because I don't want to see an adult Justin still act a little bit goofy and have him have a bunch of goofy kids with like a laugh track and everything, you know? But yeah, like I said before, this show is iconic. This show is legendary. This show was literally the blueprint for many, 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 many Disney Channel shows going forward. And even some Nickelodeon shows. Yeah, Taina was like the template and like the sketch of what a lot of like Nickelodeon shows would be like. But shows, live action teen shows did not follow after Taina. It wasn't until like 6 years later that iCarly came around, and then that became like their new template and stuff. Happy Women's History Month, everybody. All right, well, I'll talk to you later. Bye.